What is up, guys? Today we are working on one of my personal bikes. This is a 1978 Motobecane Mobylette 50V. This was one of my original bikes back when I had about 10 to 20 mopeds. This thing needs so much work, and I've never built a Mobylette before, and I can't be more excited to finally build my very own Mobylette. So let's get right into it and start disassembling this bike. As you guys saw in our last video, we actually got this thing running and riding with the original carburetor, everything the way I had it 4 or 5 years ago. However, today, that's all going to change because we are taking away most of this stuff. We are replacing the top end, the carburetor, and doing a ton of maintenance to this bike. And I can't be happier that it's one of the ones that I've had for so long. This is a bike that me and my wife have been riding together for a long time, but sadly, it's been sitting around due to needing so many repairs. So let's get right into it and start replacing some stuff and things, and also give this bike a well-deserved bath. And after all that disassemble, we're finally able to take the motor off and get to this underside, which, as you guys can see, is really gross and super grimy. And we can't have that. I actually plan to take this bike to the upcoming rally this month over in Columbus, Ohio. And to help make sure that it looks its best, we got a sponsor from Super Clean. Thanks, Super Clean, for sending over some degreaser because this Mobylette really needs it. And they were even so kind enough to allow us to do a giveaway. Go down to the comments below, guys, comment Super Clean, and you'll be entered to win some products sent to you directly from Super Clean. Alright, so 2 minutes into this video and we are already above my head. Yes, I have general moped knowledge, however, I stayed far away from AV7s. I have always heard that these are nightmares to work on, to tune. There's all kinds of things like nuts that are righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, and just so many things that throw you for a curveball. So when I started opening this thing up, I really entered in with quite a bit of caution. I first started out by disassembling everything and cleaning it as thorough as possible. That way, I could at least have a very clean starting point. So one of the things that I was most excited for was replacing this top end and my first 70cc kit ever on a Mobylette. Looking at this old one, I would imagine this is the original top end of this bike. There's so much carbon buildup. Looking at the cylinder walls, honestly, this thing has some life. And even the piston has a little bit of scoring, but with some new rings, this thing might run really nice. I've always heard a lot of noise when I rode Mobylettes, and I always thought that was kind of normal, but once I get a little closer to the crankshaft, you can actually tell that these bearings are cooked. No chance are we saving those. I wasn't planning on doing anyways because we actually got an upgraded stuffed crank for this bad boy. Pardon me, this one's not a boy, this is a girl, and her name is Letty. You guys want to hear what a bad bearing sounds like? Get a load of this. We actually got a stuffed racing crank to replace this old one, along with some brand new bearings and seals while we're in it. All we gotta do is start cooking. I actually had the crankshaft in the freezer overnight in a bag so condensation couldn't get to it. I put the bearings at around 375 degrees for 40 minutes, and then I went in, grabbed the crankshaft. As you can see, it's a little cold and it doesn't want to move too well. A little gentle persuasion and our bearings are on our new crankshaft. And now, to get our crankshaft into our case, we're going to go ahead and do the same procedure. We're going to put the crankshaft in the freezer and the cases in the heater. And while we wait on all that, let's go ahead and check out what we're working with. So, unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of good kit selections that didn't cost an arm and a leg. So I got a mix-matched Polini head, and aerosol cylinder. Is that a crime? This cylinder is a 47 millimeter bore, which means that our ring gap is going to be around 0.188 millimeters, which you want to check before you actually go ahead and install your whole top end. Ours did look to be correct, so let's go ahead and keep moving forwards. Continuing to try to be really time efficient, I went ahead and continued to prep the top end while we have everything heating up. I went and installed the studs for the intake, and then moved on to the head for the decomp. At first, looking at this thing, I thought that it was going to be a lot harder to take off, but all you have to do is pretty much cut that little prong holding everything in place, and then everything else just disassembles very easily. And there is no way that I'm going to put a super dirty decomp hardware on the top of a brand new Polini head. So thanks again, Super Clean, for sponsoring this video and helping me clean up everything. It honestly wasn't the hardest thing to put back together. However, it also wasn't the easiest. So if you guys are doing this, take your time when you do it and make sure that you put everything back on the way it should be. Finally, enough time has passed and we're ready to take out our cases, put in our new seals, and reinstall our crankshaft. There was a moment too where I went to put on this gasket in between, and I could really see people forgetting this step, putting the bottom end together, and then realizing that they forgot that gasket. So I am very happy that I did not forget that gasket. I do a lot more bottom end repairs on Pooks, so looking at this little tiny bottom end is super funny. The AV7 has so many small little brackets that do different things. I actually had to pull out one of my extra motors that I got from that 50-year-old cleanout just as a reference point. For any of you hoping that I was going to do any clutch tuning or variator tuning, unfortunately, this video, I will not be doing that. However, I did just talk to Moped Factory, who sponsored another video and let us use their engine stands for some content. And he actually is going to be sending me a little bit of a care package, so hopefully we can do some tuning with the variator balls. A real quick points cleaning, and this bottom end is finished. And there we go. It's time to marry the bottom end to the top end. And even though this Moped Factory engine stand is for a Pook E50, it's still going to help us with the Motobecane AV7. So it is finally the time I have been waiting for, and it is time to install this top end. I'm really taking my time making sure everything is super lubricated and installed correctly, because this is one of the most important parts of this process. So with our top end installed, now I want to inspect the squish. And if you guys know anything about squish, please feel free to leave some comments down below, because every time that I go to measure my squish, it always ends up being a little larger than I believe it should be. From my understanding of squish, when you're talking about a 50 to 80 cc engine, you're really supposed to be looking for a 0.5 to 0.7 millimeter. And I just did my Christmas maxi with a new 70cc kit, and it also came to be about 1.3 millimeters. When I installed my intake gasket, I noticed that the gasket was actually overhanging the port, so I went ahead and adjusted that to make sure that we had the best amount of flow possible. And then when I inspected the intake, I noticed that there was a little lip. Even though it is so small, it is still going to restrict a tiny little bit of gas and air. So what I did is I took a rounded file and filed down until everything was nice and smooth. This will give our best amount of possible air and fuel into the motor. And with that, we're good to go ahead and reinstall this motor back onto the bike. My belt really wasn't too bad, but because everything is so fresh and new, I did decide to replace it. The next issue I ran up to is, of course, nothing that changed throughout any of this process, and our decomp was actually fighting to get onto that little bracket. So I took a flat file just to file it down to thin it out a little bit, and after that, everything went back into place exactly how it came off. Not forgetting to install our copper crush washer for our exhaust, which, yes, we are going to be running our stock exhaust, and installing a brand new spark plug. As somebody that enjoys keeping bikes all original in stock, this one's gonna hurt. I believe that these are the original grips, and they are obviously past due. If somebody knows in the comments down below, let me know if these are the original grips. For now, my buddy that actually is going to be riding this during this rally is a huge fan of Vans, so I think he's going to love these grips. And now, just adding a couple pieces of trim before we install the carburetor, and this thing is coming out great. I am so excited. Out with the old and in with the new. We're replacing this old carburetor with a brand new Delorto 1515. I probably could have gone a little bit bigger looking back at it, AO, but again, this is my very first time ever modifying a Mobylette. So if you guys have any bigger suggestions, please let me know down in the comments below. Finally, we got the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey nut, because we did change out the crankshaft to standard thread, which now we can check for spark, which we did have. However, it did seem to be a little weak. Maybe my timing's off, or maybe there's something else. And so, with everything in place, it's time to try and finally start this bike up for the very first time. And after our first attempt, it would not idle, so I pulled the plug, which we are running clearly way too rich. So we got a down jet. Now that this bike is running and idling, all we gotta do is break it in. So we're gonna do 3 heat cycles. A heat cycle is basically just running the bike until it gets up to temp, letting it cool down, and then doing that 2 more times. Checking that plug again, it looks like we are looking a lot better, maybe still a little rich, but this is a break-in, so I'd much rather have it rich than lean. So there's definitely a few things that I want to do to this back end here. So the first thing is taking a look at these brakes, because they don't seem to really work too well. But obviously first, we gotta give them a real quick clean so we have a nice surface to work on. I did order some super grippy Treatland brakes, but unfortunately they were a little too grippy and they didn't fit in my hub. That's okay. What I'm gonna do for now is take really low grit sandpaper, like a 60 or a 40, and just scuff up the previous pads. And when I put them side by side, that glazing is all gone and we should have much better braking power. Next, I only wish it was that easy. Unfortunately, these tires were so hard to get on, I actually had to run the tubes all the way up to 50 PSI just to get the seal for the bead. Now, I wasn't planning on replacing the chain, but after taking it off and moving it around, I noticed that it was super loud. And if you've ever heard anybody say that a chain can stretch, I didn't believe it at first, but looking at this, as you guys saw, we are about half of a link longer towards the end, which I guess proves it. These chains really do tend to stretch. Marking the location of where I'm going to take out the linkage and using our chain breaker tool, and we're good to go ahead and reinstall this back onto the bike. Yeah, of course I made it too long. However, I'd rather much have it be too long than too short. Yeah, definitely. So with that, it's time to finally put on the last pieces of trim and just soak this bike in. I am so excited to take this thing out and actually ride it in once we officially break it in. If you guys want to see more about this bike close up, come on, meet me out in Columbus, Ohio at the end of this month. So for now, guys, I really hope that you guys appreciated this video and maybe you guys got something out of it. Hopefully this helps you guys with your Mobylette projects. I know that this was so much fun for me and I am so proud to have this bike now in my stable. I can't wait for this bike to be my daily rider and ultimately take it to the Moped Rally in Columbus, Ohio. So with that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, ride safe.